Not every movie is a pleasant experience for the talent involved. Sometimes, an actor is openly ashamed of a movie in which they starred and is keen to let everyone know how much they loathe various aspects of a film's production. Big budget blockbusters are the most frequent objects of an actor's mockery. These days, practically every would-be summer blockbuster is a spectacle-laden superhero feature, for better or worse, so there's a lot of animosity between certain actors and many of their most famous roles. The movie stars on this list have had serious problems with the superpowered films in which they starred. Here are 10 actors who hated their superhero movies. But before we start, make sure you follow us by clicking on that like button below the video to get more sweet content from Animated Times. Let's go. At number 10, George Clooney in Batman and Robin. What more needs to be said about the 1997's Batman and Robin that hasn't been said a million times already on snarky internet websites like this one? You know your movie is a piece of garbage when its saving grace is the camp-tastic acting prowess of Arnold Schwarzenegger. This movie completely derailed the career of the talented Joel Schumacher, who I actually personally like. You know, he did those movies like Falling Down the Lost Boys. Anyways, who was notably unhappy with the way the film was being handled by the executives at Warner Brothers and was powerless to salvage anything worth watching from what he referred to as a toy commercial. Somehow, star George Clooney was able to become a certifiable A-list star, despite Batman and Robin dropping at such a crucial point during his rise to international stardom. Perhaps B&R was a crucible, a baptism by fire that solidified Clooney's status as a serious movie star who could survive anything. Of the role that could have killed his career, the former ER actor said that the film was a waste of money and that, quote, "I think we may have killed the franchise." He's even outright apologized for the film on numerous occasions. Indeed, it took 2005's Batman Begins, one of the first and most well-remembered of the dark and gritty reboots, to bring Batman back to pop culture dominance. At number 9, Kirsten Dunst in Spider-Man 3. Now, Kirsten Dunst wasn't too keen to remember for a third adventure as Mary Jane Watson in Sam Raimi's groundbreaking Spider-Man series, at least not without more control over her character's arc. Sick of being reduced to a damsel in distress by the end of the previous two films, it was decided that Bryce Dallas Howard's Gwen Stacy would instead serve the role during the finale, while Mary Jane would be the one to confront Harry Osborn, played by James Franco, and convince him to provide aid during the final showdown. Now, unfortunately, studio executives demanded that Mary Jane be the one in peril, and execs always get what they want, regardless of promises made or the effect it could have on the finished movie. Sam Raimi has said that telling Kirsten Dunst that everything he promised her would be undone was one of the most difficult things he had ever done on a movie. Dunst delivers a great performance in the hugely polarizing Spider-Man 3, but it's a shame that one of her most dramatic scenes had to be completely removed from the film in favor of being forced to be a woman in peril. At number 8, Halle Berry in Catwoman. Catwoman is a bizarre movie, seemingly directed and edited by schizophrenic children high on a combination of sugary breakfast cereal and cocaine. Catwoman's only point of merit is that it makes Batman and Robin look like a decent film by comparison? Question mark. This is easily Sharon Stone's worst movie, and she starred in Basic Instinct 2. Halle Berry plays the title character, a feline heroine with virtually nothing in common with Michelle Pfeiffer's beloved version of the character or literally any other version of Catwoman in any medium ever. After the film received terrible reviews and bombed at the box office, it naturally swept the Golden Raspberry Awards, winning 4 Razzies, including Worst Actress. Halle Berry appeared in person to accept her award, holding it alongside her 2001 Oscar for Monsters Ball. During her acceptance speech, Berry, never one to mince words, thanked Warner Brothers for casting her in a piece of god-awful movie. Up next, Andrew Garfield in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The Amazing Spider-Man was an ill-fated reboot of the Spider-Man series created so that Sony could hold on to the rights after plans for Sam Raimi to make a 4th chapter in his critically acclaimed take on the web-slinger were nixed. Now, the first ASM film did decent business in 2012, but its $260 million domestic take was a far cry from the $330 million that Spider-Man 3 had earned 5 years before. For the sequel, Sony executives were overly hands-on in the filmmaking process, leading to loud rumblings of unrest among the talent. The composer for the film, James Horner, Star Trek II, Avatar, yeah, I know, I totally love him, reportedly dropped out of the follow-up feature to avoid the drama, and the film was overstuffed with half-baked plot threads, which were to be explored in numerous sequels, and spin-offs, of course, because, that's a thing, which ended up never being made, as the film wound up underperforming at the box office, leading to Sony allowing a rebooted version of the character to make his debut in Marvel's Captain America: Civil War. For his part, star Andrew Garfield was outspoken about his discontent with the handling of ASM 2, saying that Sony's interference led to the film being less than it should have been. Now that Tom Holland is in the spandex, Garfield said he was excited to just be a fan again. At number 6, Jared Leto in Suicide Squad. Now, the DC Extended Universe, despite starring fan-favorite characters like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the Joker, has not been faring well with critics, with the exception of Wonder Woman and Aquaman, of course. With 6 films yet released, 2017's Wonder Woman has the highest critic rating, with a 93% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Whatever gets 93%, just saying. Which is much more when compared to the other 5 movies. Now, one person who particularly disliked Suicide Squad actually starred in it, and that's Jared Leto. The film was criticized for including him front and center in all of the marketing materials, though his role in the movie itself is secondary at best and negligible at worst. Leto said that nearly all of the scenes he shot wound up on the cutting room floor, and that there was enough material to create a whole other Joker movie. Reports that he mentioned feeling like he had been tricked into being in Suicide Squad were overblown and unconfirmed, but that in no way takes away from the fact that he was clearly unhappy with the final product. Time will tell if Leto can be persuaded to return for additional sequels, as well as movies like Justice League 2 or Matt Reeves' solo Batman film. At number 5, Hugo Weaving in Captain America: The First Avenger. Marvel is on top of the world right now, well duh, though they face constant criticism over their perceived villain problem, in that many of the antagonists of the film are barely boring compared to the heroes they face. Malekith the Dark Elf, Ronan the Accuser, and Whiplash, more on him in a bit, all forgettably fade into the background of their movies. One of the rare exceptions to this unfortunate trend is the Red Skull, as played by Hugo Weaving in 2011's Captain America: The First Avenger, who delighted audiences with his equally hammy and menacing stature, not to mention his namesake facial deformity. Now, while fans saw the return of Red Skull in the Avengers: Infinity War after his ambiguous demise at the end of The First Avenger, Hugo Weaving has expressed an active interest in not returning to the part. Regarding his role as the evil Hydra commander, he reflected that while he was willing to give it a shot, that type of movie was ultimately not really his cup of tea. At number 4, Ryan Reynolds in The Green Lantern. So 2 years before Man of Steel, 2011's Green Lantern was supposed to launch DC's cinematic universe. Angela Bassett as Amanda Waller is a noticeable bit of world building, but it didn't quite work out that way. Despite the power of rising star Ryan Reynolds and respected director Martin Campbell, he did GoldenEye, Casino Royale, and The Mask of Zorro. Love him. Anyways, Green Lantern was a dud with critics and audiences alike, crashing and burning at the box office. Ryan Reynolds reflected that the movie was not up to par, that it was overly reliant on visual effects, and that the film was edited beyond repair by studio execs after Martin Campbell submitted his first cut. Additionally, despite the firm establishment of the DC Extended Universe with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, Reynolds expressed no interest in returning to the role of Hal Jordan for future films. Tellingly, there are a handful of snipes taken towards the film in Reynolds' latest superhero parody send-up, Deadpool. Yeah, I know, we all love it, especially the quote, "Please don't make the super suit green or animated." At number 3, Ryan Reynolds in X-Men Origins: Wolverine. Yes, I know we just mentioned Ryan Reynolds, but he's that awesome, he gets 2 spots. 2 years before Green Lantern, Ryan Reynolds was stuck in another half-baked superhero flick, X-Men Origins: Wolverine, a film which has gained newfound historical relevance following the runaway success of 2016's Deadpool. In both films, Reynolds plays Wade Wilson, the merc with a mouth, and a penchant for killing people while spouting off one-liners. However, fans balked at the character's arc, which finds him reduced to a brainwashed lackey of Colonel Stryker, played by Danny Houston, with his mouth literally sewn shut. It was a bold move, to be sure, but many fans were outraged at the perceived bastardization of their favorite character in Deadpool, which reboots the character much closer to his wacky R-rated comic book roots. There is no shortage of jokes at the expense of X-Men Origins, Wolverine, and that film's loose interpretation of the Deadpool character. Best of all, Ryan Reynolds plays him in both films, making them amusingly dissonant companion pieces. At number 2, Christian Bale in the Dark Knight trilogy. Nobody hates Batman Begins or The Dark Knight, though The Dark Knight Rises has its fair share of detractors. However, one person who felt that the movies were not all they could have been is none other than Christian Bale, who played Batman/Bruce Wayne in the acclaimed trilogy. Now, Bale isn't exactly fuming with hatred over the films, but rather, he simply feels like he could have done better. He had wanted to explore the deep inner psychology of a seriously messed up mind, but had to stay within more heroic confines. Bale blamed Heath Ledger's version of the Joker, whose overt mental dysfunction pushed Batman more towards the valiant end of the spectrum. Indeed, Christian Bale's version of the Caped Crusader, while certainly disturbed, lacks the legitimate psychosis of Michael Keaton's take on the character. As beloved as Nolan's Batman trilogy may be, it would have been interesting to see where Bale could have taken the character had villains like Joker and Bane not completely stolen the show. And at number 1, Christopher Reeve in Superman 4. Richard Donner's Superman, the movie, is one of the most legendary and revered superhero stories of all time, and the director's cut of Superman 2 is right behind it. However, behind-the-scenes drama involving the producers wanting a lighter tone led to replacement director Richard Lester adding a lot of silly jokes into the theatrical cut of Superman 2 and Superman 3 that was an obnoxious comedy starring Richard Pryor for no good reason. After that film made a ton of money, though significantly less than its predecessors, the producers dropped the series and it landed in the hands of Canon Films. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, was put into development, and actor Christopher Reeve was excited at the prospect of telling a story about a nuclear disarmament and was even able to persuade Gene Hackman to return as Lex Luthor. However, the film had its budget slashed numerous times and was edited down into a barely watchable 90-minute travesty, which was basically unfinished. Reeves saw the writing on the wall during shooting and just knew that the film would be awful. In his autobiography, Still Me, he wrote that the film was a far cry from the vision he had for the film and that it was an embarrassment for everyone involved. It says a lot that even after 12 years of 2.5 Men, Superman 4 is still the worst thing that Jon Cryer has ever done. Okay, so what did you think? Did these movies deserve criticism from the very actors who starred in them? Sound off in the comments below. If you haven't already liked our page, go hit that like button, and if you liked what you saw, you can check out more awesome content on our page. And as always, thanks for watching.